In this video, we're going to talk about rep systems, and this relates to how people process information or experiences that they've had. Rep systems are divided into two main areas. Your primary and you've got your lead. And in this publication, in this video, I'm just going to talk about the primary. What's going to drive the person, how you're going to communicate better with them. And if you listen to the words that they use, it gives you the predicates, as we call them. If you listen to the predicates, the words that they use, you'll get a really good understanding of how they process information. Therefore, you can feed back to them using their language, enabling them to get a better understanding of what you're trying to say. It really helps rapport, and we've been talking about rapport in previous videos. So if you listen very carefully to the next few minutes, I'm going to break the predicates, the rep systems, down into the main areas. And once you've done this video, I'd invite you just to go and download in the link below a rep test, very simple rep test, and you can then see for yourself exactly how you work, how your mind works inside your head. So you can then get a better idea of your communicating. And if you are communicating with people and there's certain people you can't communicate with, just find out what their system is and just listen. And you may find that you are purely visual and they are purely auditory, and you're not using auditory language, so they can't really understand what you're saying. And this will become more and more clear as I go through. So when talking about rep systems, we talk about predicates, and the predicates are the words that people use. So the first section is visual. Now, visual people memorize in pictures. So when they are learning things and when they're trying to understand things, they think in pictures. Therefore, when you communicate with them, don't give them long lists of things. Give them pictures. Use PowerPoint. You can use words like picture this. Can you imagine? And you'll hear them using some predicates, the words that are really visual. Words like, I see. I like the look of that. They may say things like being more focused. They may use words like imagine, clear, foggy, focused. All these are visual words. And if you start listening out to the words that people use, and if they are very visual, you can communicate back using visual words and they will understand you much better. And that builds rapport. And this is what this is all about, is continuing to build that rapport so you can communicate and people can understand. The second rep system is auditory. Auditory people use their ears. They learn by saying things. They learn by listening. They learn by communicating via the ears rather than the seeing. And if you listen to their predicates, the words that they use, they tend all to be very listening. I hear what you say. This sounds very positive to me. I'm all ears. They tend to like music. They tend to be comments like, I want to be heard, or hear this. So they tend to use all the auditory words. So when you listen to them, you've now got two. Are they visual? Are they auditory? And start listening and you communicate back using that language. They are easily distracted by noise because to them sound is very, very important. So if there's too much noise, they can't really concentrate. They enjoy listening to music. They say things back to themselves. So you may get somebody going, yeah, hang on. Like they're talking to themselves. And what they're doing is they're bouncing the question to and from their ear, maybe from side to side. They're asking themselves the question in order to get the answer up. So they tend to use the ears as a really good way of communicating because they listen more. And they like verbal feedback on how they're doing. So if you do see someone like that, just give them really good feedback. And so, I heard what you're doing. I think that's really good. Did you hear me? I think you're doing really well. And you'll see them just boost because you're using their predicate. They're using the words all to do with auditory. And you're giving them praise. And feedback is always good praise. The next in the system, the rep systems, is kinesthetic. Kinesthetic people, they respond to touch. They're the touchy-feelies. They learn by actually doing something. So they're not going to learn from a book. They're not going to learn from a film, watching it. They're not going to learn anything like that. They learn by doing it. And the kinesthetic people, they tend to talk in the words of their feelings. And they use like the words feel. Oh, I feel like doing this today. I've got a grasp on that. Again, kinesthetic, very touchy-feely language. They like to get hold of things. They like to tap into, they like to make contact. You start listening to the language that they use. They may have a negative and an unfeeling. Something may be hard. Again, touch. Something may be soft. And you start talking about all the different languages that people use. So far, just to recap very briefly, we've got the visuals, the seers, the auditory, the listeners, and the kinesthetic, the feelers. And there is a fourth. There's always a fourth. And the fourth is the people who are auditory digital. And these are people who spend lots of time talking to themselves and getting inside their heads. They're giving them digital feedback. They often need to repeat things that you've said in order just to check in with all the facts and figures they have inside their head. And they are very much run by data. They're data driven. You'll see their eyes go down to the right when they're moving. You'll see their eyes go down to the right when they're thinking. And it's like down here, there's a little calculator, and they're just calculating everything. And they will use like the word sense, experience. They'll use words like, I understand. Again, it's like a little almost head-top computer down here, just checking all the facts on everything that's happened to them before. They will use things like process. Oh, I'll process that one overnight. I like that one. They may consider things. Then they may use things like know, process. They may learn, think. And these are all predicates or words that auditory digital people use. So the four main areas that you've just learnt are the hearers, the seers, the feelers, the computerizers. So when we look at all the ways that people communicate, if we can use their words and we can use their language back to them in a way that they understand it, your rapport building is going to go up. Your rapport building is going to be increased. I think I said in my previous video that the time when I was building rapport with people who really didn't want me in their office, but they were told to by their bosses, and I was just listening to all the predicates, all the words that people were using, and I was asking them very simple questions. Nothing to do with work, nothing to do with what I was there, maybe the view out the window. I said, what do you notice? What do you see out there? Or do you hear much traffic up here? And you'll get all the people who are the auditory going, oh, the noises up here are really, really bad. And they say, no, I don't get the noise, but I just love the views. And you start listening to the way that people communicate. So I went, okay, I have a visual here. Then there was a very much, on that particular meeting, there was a very much auditory digital person. And so I used auditory digital language back to him. And so as we went through, I was able just to use all my language in a way. As soon as I got everybody on my side, by using some of the tricks and techniques I've already shown you on some of these videos, I was able then to lead just by taking that glass of water. It sounds simple, but as soon as I took that glass of water, everyone else came on side, and within 20 seconds, they'd all had a sip of water. And I knew then it was time to just turn the table slightly and start talking about the actual reason why I was there. If I'd gone in all blazing straight away, their minds were just closed off. And this is all about building rapport. So you can use these whether you're at work, whether you're in human resources, whether you're a director or even just a worker in a building. If you start listening and using these rapport building skills, and you start listening using the rep systems, and you start listening to those predicates, the words that they use, and feeding them back, you will then enable yourself just to have a much nicer life. Whether you're talking to your children, whether you're talking to your friends, it's so much easier just to get that rapport, and then you can relax. Because once you've got that rapport, things work much better. I was talking to a teacher quite recently, and the teacher's been watching a couple of the videos, and they said, I really love the rapport building because that's what I have to do on a daily basis with a room full of kids. So if you imagine if you're a teacher and you do have 20 or 30 kids in a classroom, just listening to some of the feedback and the comments and the jokes that the kids are making, you're able then just to make sure that you keep every child in the room on your side. So sometimes you explain things on a visually. Sometimes you explain things for the kinesthetic. Sometimes you explain things for the auditory, and other times the AD, the auditory digitals. So it's a really good way of combining some of the previous videos with this one, and you can build the rapport. Because then you can teach people, you can then sell to people, you can then help people to understand. If you look in the section beneath this, there's a download link for a rep test which you can take yourself. Free of charge, just put your email in, and hopefully the automatic system will send you an email, and it'll have on it the questions and what to do with the answers that you have to give your own rep test. And you can try it on yourself and friends just to see how you're communicating. Try it on your partner and just see if you're both right about each other. It's quite a fun game to do. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Please comment below with any questions that you have. And I love the comments and the private messages I get from people who are watching my videos. Some of them asking interesting questions, and some of them saying, could you do a video on X, Y, and Z? Whatever that may be for them. And as we go through, I'll continue taking this on this journey into the wonderful world of NLP, just giving you short snippets on things you can use to help build rapport, to help change people's lives, to help do things for yourself. Because whenever you help somebody else, you're also helping yourself on the inside.